think you had this. I think you were the first one that really said that drew attention to like that all the confusion around sex and gender was a symptom of civilizations in decline.
Yeah, well, I got it from Douglas Murray.
Oh, Douglas Murray.
Yeah,
this.
Douglas Murray talked about this, that it seems like every civilization, when they're at the brink of collapse, becomes obsessed with gender. And he talked about ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and it just seems like a thing that people do when there's no real like physical conflict.
Right.
So people look for conflict that doesn't exist, and they find conflict in standard norms. They find conflict in societal norms.
Stay until the end. There is something about the system you don't know, I'll tell you. Let's listen to this incredible story. God said in the Quran the first nation to start homosexuality was the people of Lut in a town called Sodom. They indulged in these immoral activities in the open and were proud of their behavior. Allah gave the mission to Lut to warn them against God's punishment and follow Allah's pathway. They rejected Lut and continued with their immoral sins. Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, raised the issue of homosexuality and let them know that this was an unethical behavior. He says, "Why do you war, men, lust after fellow men, leaving the wives that your Lord has created for you? In fact, you are a transgressing people." The only people to follow Allah's command in entire Sodom was the Prophet Lut families, except his wife. Lut asked Allah to protect him. Allah says in the following verse, "My Lord, support me against the corrupting people. My Lord, save me and my family from what they do." Allah sent 3 angels that came in Sodom in human form, disguised as young, handsome men. They entered Lut's house. Lot's wife observed them. She quickly alerted the town's men that Lut was hosting 3 handsome young men in his home. After hearing the good news, the men of nations slowly gathered outside of Lut's home and started banging on his door. After striking the males, an angel came out of Lut's home and all of the men lost their vision. Shocked and furious, "What's this magic that really touched us?" yelled the aggressors. "What is the source of this? Oh, look, you are responsible for this. Tomorrow, you'll witness what we'll do to you." The bind men then went back to their houses and made plans for the next day's destruction of Lut. The angel said, "O Lot, indeed, we are messengers of your Lord. Therefore, they will never reach you. So set out with your family during a portion of the night, and let not any among you look back, except your wife. Indeed, she will be struck by that which strikes them. Their appointment is of all the morning. Is not the morning near?" In the morning, a loud, piercing scream boomed throughout the city. The citizens were filled with fear. The country was then plucked from the bottom of an angel's wing, lifted into the air, bent, and smashed to the ground. The inhabitants of Sodom were then put to death by hard clay stones, which fell from the sky. This story demonstrates that Allah's anger is towards people who support and promote homosexuality. Some people claim that we are advanced. We are in the 21st century. Let everyone do what he or she wants, even if it's wrong, as long as it makes them feel happy. My reply to those people is that let's say we have someone the only thing that makes him happy is to beat women. Should we let that person keep on beating women because it's his source of happiness and say, yeah, it's the free century, you can do whatever you want, even if it's wrong, as long as it makes you feel happy, we are all good. Historians said Africa is the cradle of humankind. Let's go there to find out how many gender we have there. Let's start with Morocco to find out.
We came to Morocco to find out how many genders are there. How many genders are there?
Oh, 2.
Oh, yeah, 2.
Biologically.
There's only 2?
Yeah, scientifically, biologically.
I thought there was like 40.
No, biologically speaking, there's 2 genders. There's males and females.
What is a woman?
A woman is everything.
It's everything?
Yeah.
So like, what's the difference between a woman and a man? Like, can I become a woman?
I don't think so. You can't.
No, I can't?
You can't.
Why? So what is a woman?
A woman can give birth to children. You can't.
What do you think
and
about...
She's more affectionate than men.
Yes,
And she
agreed.
can do everything, but men can't do everything. I guess that women are much more better than men.
And you're a school teacher, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And what do you think about in the USA teaching that men can be women and there's a million different genders? Do you think that's bad for children?
I guess so.
To find out how many genders are there?
Here, too.
How many genders are there?
I don't understand you.
Do you speak Arabic?
Yeah, I speak Arabic.
شحال كاين واش كاينين عيالات ورجال ولا كاين شي حاجه اخرى من العائلات؟
In Morocco, women and men.
That's it.
That's it.
In the USA, there's like
Now, let's go to Kenya.
Can a man become a woman?
No.
No?
No.
What about a transgender?
Eh?
Transgender?
No.
No?
It look like if you want to become a lady but you're a man, you have something wrong in
Something
your mind.
wrong.
Something wrong in your family, something wrong in you.
The next question to answer is, can we really be born as a guy, or can we choose our sex after 18?
I'm going to use my time to respond to Dr. McNamara. First, I'm struck by her use of the phrase, sex assigned at birth. Sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is established at conception, and it's recognized at birth, if not earlier. Dr. McNamara claims that her views are science-based, but to claim that sex is assigned at birth is without any scientific basis whatsoever. Its language misleads people, especially children, into thinking that male and female are arbitrary designations and can change. That is simply not true. Dr. McNamara claims that social and medical interventions are the only evidence-based treatment and that scientific evidence shows it is life-saving. Without it, she's warning us, kids will commit suicide. Well, a growing number of countries have effectively banned the care to which she's referring. And thank God there's been no wave of suicides or other mental health catastrophes. 3 years ago, Finland placed strict limitations on medical interventions for minors. Sweden did the same thing after a 14-year-old girl was found to have osteoporosis and spinal fractures from puberty blockers. An investigation concluded, quote, the risks of anti-puberty and hormone treatment for those under 18 currently outweigh the possible benefits. The UK conducted a review and called the evidence very low. They've also placed severe restrictions on the care that Dr. McNamara calls life-saving. Norway also analyzed the data and has made similar changes in policy. The National Academy of Medicine in France warned, quote, great medical caution must be taken in children and adolescents given the vulnerability of this population and the many undesirable, even serious complications the therapies cause. Doctors in New Zealand and Australia have published similar statements. Is Dr. McNamara suggesting that all these countries are rejecting evidence-based treatment and placing their kids at risk of suicide? Regarding that point of view, Finland's gender expert, Dr. Rita Kaltiela, said, quote, it's purposeful disinformation, the spreading of which is irresponsible. All 7 countries, and Florida too, of course, concluded that kids don't need their development interrupted, the girls don't need their periods stopped and their voices lowered, and the boys don't need to grow breasts. What they need is psychotherapy. I have other objections to Dr. McNamara's testimony. She insists that her position, only hers, represents standard medical care. What she doesn't want you to know is that there is no standard. There's a debate. There's a fierce debate. And on the side opposite her stand such prominent figures as Stephen Levine, Kenneth Zucker, Paul McHugh, and James Cantor, among others. These doctors are giants in the field. They have been treating transgender patients and gathering data and publishing papers about them, and I mean no disrespect here, but since before Dr. McNamara was born. The point is that those veteran clinicians and others who have wisdom and experience are ignored because they disagree with the current narrative. They're against medical interventions for the same reason those 7 countries are. There is no evidence of long-term benefit, but there is evidence of harm. I'll end by quoting Jamie Reed, the courageous whistleblower from the Children's Gender Clinic in St. Louis. I believe that hospital receives the medical education funding that we're discussing today. She said that doctors at that clinic said, "We are building the plane while we are flying it." We are building the plane while we are flying it. That's how they described the treatment at their gender clinic. Our precious tax dollars should not support such a perilous experiment.
Let's hear what Patrick and Joe said about it.
It's very clear that there are certain teachers that have an agenda, and that their agenda is to indoctrinate children into this LBGT mindset, and that this is not just cherished but celebrated. What my concern with is that a lot of what we're seeing with, like, New Jersey had an uptick in kids identifying as non-binary by 4,000%. Like, it's not natural. These are not normal numbers. And I think children are very malleable. They're very impressionable. And if you reward them for certain kinds of behavior, if they are praised and cherished for certain types of behavior, I think they'll be encouraged to do that. And I think you're seeing with a lot of these detransitioners that a lot of these kids got encouraged early and got put on hormone blockers and hormones and got mastectomies and got castrated, and now they have deep regret. And people don't want to acknowledge that, and they attack those people. They attack those detransitioners. We have always thought that young children are not capable of making life-changing decisions at an early age. That's why we don't allow 7-year-olds to get tattooed. Right. And now all of a sudden you're allowing 7-year-olds to say that I'm a girl or I'm a boy, cut off my breasts and put me on testosterone.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Take your children and have a serious discussion with them regarding it. If you don't, they will be programmed by the system. We are living in a time whoever chooses God, morality, traditional values is labeled as a misogynist, backward people, homophobe, etc. Islam emphasis on the good parenting and upbringing of a child in a good environment, with the attention of both mother and father. Allah created humans, but every other thing in this world is born in pairs, of male and female. Male and female are designed differently, and they both need each other to run the life. Islam is the religion which does not support anything without purpose, and particularly when things go towards vulgarity. Put 100 men on an island within 100 years, all those men will be dead. Put 40 men on an island with 60 women on that island. There will be a next generation of human being on that island. Russia is among the country that is not going degenerate because they know how important our traditional and family values. One of the main reasons why the West started the war in Ukraine is because of that. Russia does not want their degeneracy.
Now, in a blow to Russian LGBTQ plus community, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed legislation that bans people from officially or medically changing their gender.
Right, this act has been passed unanimously by both houses of the parliament. It bans any medical interventions aimed at changing the sex of a person and bans changing a person's gender in official documents or public records. It also annuls marriage in which one person has changed gender and bars transgender people from becoming foster or adoptive parents. Russian lawmakers say the act seeks to protect Russia against, I'm quoting here, Western anti-family ideology.
Now, some have even described gender transitioning as pure Satanism. President Putin has been pushing for such laws for over a decade, which he says aim to protect traditional values. Now, in year 2013, the Kremlin adopted legislation that banned any public endorsement of non-traditional sexual relations among minors. In 2020, Putin pushed through constitutional reform that outlawed same-sex marriage.
You remember about the secret about the system I said I'll tell you before the video start. Listen carefully. The elites, the people at the top, are doing all they can to make the world as degenerate as possible to speed up the coming of the Antichrist. What they don't understand, those people at the top, is that things goes according to Allah's plan, not theirs. We will end with this video from this guy. The people of understanding will understand.
My name is Ernie Whitaker. My pronouns are I, me, he, him, she, her, we, they, us. Sometimes I even use Shakespearean pronouns, which are thee, thou, thy, thyself, and ye. I'm transgender, non-binary, gender conforming, gender fluid, just to name a few. As you all know, the trans movement is the fastest growing movement out there, so I figured, why not get involved in the ground level and use it to my advantage? For instance, whenever I'm late to work, which happens a lot, I'm not gonna lie, I just self-identify as translate. Not translate like the language translate, but you guys know what I'm talking about. That's someone who's late but identifies as being on time. I thought of that one myself.
I'm not gonna lie, it is challenging having somebody like Ernie in the office, but due to diversity requirements, we have to have he, him, she, her, we, they.
After lunch, I identify as trans-abled. That's someone who identifies as being handicapped. I do this purely to get out of working a few hours of the day. Later in the day, I identify as transracial and become a black dude from Brooklyn. My name is Tyrone, but my boys call me Tyreezy. You feel me? Brooklyn, stand up. Sarah, wanna do lunch? Shut up, white boy. I'm trying to shoot. Damn. And lastly, I like to identify as a transformer. I'm more than meets the eye.